Hello, my name's Alastair Frew and welcome to this short webinar on the subject of solar panels on commercial rooftops. As you may have read in the news recently, the country now has turned off all of its coal-fired power stations and therefore solar energy is more important than ever before. If you've got a rooftop that's yours, either you're a long-term tenant or you're the freeholder, you might consider trying to generate a little bit of extra income or save some electricity bills by putting solar panels on the roof. A solar panel development company will happily come and speak to you and will seek to install panels on your roof, maybe for a 20 or 30 year lease term. They'll want to be able to break after 5 or 10 years in case the market doesn't work, but they will nonetheless come to you, discuss terms, discuss engineering, and they will agree documentation. The idea would be they would pay you just a £1 rent for your rooftop, unless it's a very large rooftop, a £1 rent, but in return you'll get a cheaper supply of electricity. You'll need to make sure that the development company looks after your roof. They'll be drilling holes in the roof in order to secure their solar panels, so take special care to make sure no water gets in. All the repairing obligations are looked after very carefully. You also need to make sure that you have the space to allow them to build it. They'll need to put up a crane, they'll need to fly things over the top of your building while they're installing. If you're in a very tight urban space, that might be difficult for you, but for many buildings it works perfectly. Then what you do is you enter into an arrangement where they have a lease of your building. If you want to, you can tell them to move away, get off your building, and they'll require you to buy the panels back so that you can then own the panels. They will walk away. The landlord buyback is something that's very much worth discussing if you're thinking about this proposal. Business rates is an issue. There was a lot of stuff in the news a few years ago about how expensive business rates were for solar panels on commercial rooftops. At the moment, it's been reduced. The Chancellor changed the rules a few years ago up until 2035. So in the short term, it's not an issue, but maybe something to think about and talk to us about for the longer term. If you're going to do it, you need to make sure your building is strong enough to take the panels. You need to make sure you have a visual impact assessment as part of the planning process so your neighbours aren't offended by the sight of the panels. And you need to make sure the roof is strong enough to survive not only the weight, but the wind. As the wind whips under the panels, it doesn't lift the whole roof of your building away. These are surveys that you'll need to have done. The developer will understand, but make sure you're on top of that as part of the process. And also make sure that your insurance company is comfortable, because you will need some sort of battery storage as part of the rooftop solar scheme, and insurers are currently very nervous about where the batteries should be located, because occasionally they catch fire and insurance premiums are going up for buildings that have batteries installed inside them. So mention this to your insurance broker before you get too far down the line. As for the other half of the agreement, I said there was going to be a lease. As well as a lease, there needs to be something called a power purchase agreement. You're getting £1 a year for the lease, so you need to get something out of that power purchase agreement. And what you get is cheap electricity. You have to negotiate very carefully to make sure the price is right, because it will be set. You may have a 5-yearly right to rediscuss the price, but it will be set in advance. That's where the value for you in this agreement is. But just also be careful, you don't necessarily get a guaranteed supply. Generally what you get is you get what is available. If the sun isn't shining, of course you don't get any power. The solar panel company isn't obliged to buy electricity in for you. You get what they've got. Any surplus belongs to them and they can sell it. So it's an arrangement that balances the risk between the parties. You aren't taking any particular risk. They are paying. The developer is paying to put the panels on, but equally they are not obliged to supply you with electricity. In a bigger scheme, you can change the balance of power. You say, no, you must supply us with electricity. We will pay you a fixed price and we demand a fixed sum of electricity. But for most people, with most commercial buildings, we leave it that it's a very small rent, and the electricity they generate, you can buy at a fixed price. Any surplus they can keep and sell onto the national grid. That's a quick introduction to solar panels on commercial rooftops. If you want to learn a bit more, get in touch with me or the team here at Lodders Solicitors. Thank you.